Hey, Darren, thanks for joining me on the Flipping Junkie podcast. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, Danny. Good to be here.
Awesome. So, Darren, we've known each other for years now, probably 3 years or more.
We've probably known each other for three, but I actually signed up for your website 4 years ago. I've been a customer since then.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and we're also in the same mastermind group, which is, with Justin Williams and Seven Figure, Eight Figure. And, I wanted to have you on just to hear your story, right? And get to know you a little bit better and let other people get to know who Darren Smith is and what you do. And if you want, let's just start with how you got into real estate investing, what sparked your interest in it, and just share your story.
Be happy to share that, Danny. When you first asked me to do this, I honestly thought a little bit, well, gosh, someone has enough to kind of share about wholesaling and flipping and all that. But the more I thought about it, there's a lot of people who've done way more than me and are way more successful. But there's also people, I think I do have a lot to share for some people who may just are starting out. I've been in real estate since 2003. I was in computers. I did the Army thing, and then got out of the Army, started working in Maryland. And one of my coworkers was really into flipping and just the whole real estate thing. Loved it. So like everybody else back then, I bought just dozens of books, read them all, started making offers. Did my first live-in flip. Started trying to get into commercial type things. I did a couple other smaller flips, flipped a mobile home. And so kind of like everybody back then, the market was going up and I made some good money. Problem was, I got in a little bit over my head. Looked like everybody else thought I was what I was doing, and started investing out of state a little bit into some mobile home parks, and it went really badly in the crash. So I had 3-4 years of a good run. Fortunately, at the time I was also still doing my computers, so I was progressing through that, and that was a good success, and having a lot of fun with that, moving up the ranks through the tech world. So after kind of the crash, I was married at that point and needed something a little bit more stable. So I kind of abandoned real estate for a little bit there, went back and got my master's, and just thought, man, computers are going to be my thing. And after, I don't know, 3 years of that, I just said, you know what, I really loved, I still had the itch. I still just loved the whole real estate thing. And so unfortunately, I was out probably during the best years of the buying time, but I got back in right around 5 years ago. And I started from scratch, really. I'm like, I got a little bit big for my britches the first time. So I thought, man, let me start with somebody that really knows what they're doing. So I just signed up for every wholesaler's website in my area at the time and got on their buyers list, and then started making some calls. And I got a call from one of the guys, and he took me under his wing and basically just made me his assistant. If there was anything to be done, if there was a property to go to, if there was, taking the lead intake calls, just all the grunt work stuff. And, made next to no money. I was doing it after hours, after my computer job, driving, I had a long commute, so I would make lots of calls, and I had like a call recording software. So I'd get home and then re-listen to the calls, spending way too much time talking to very
But it never felt, did it ever feel like something that I kind of doubt that you complained about any of that, right? I mean, it was.
No, it was exciting. I was happy
Right.
to do it. I made a lot of money back in the beginning. I say a lot, for me. It was, it was enough that it was, I thought maybe I can replace my computer income. So at this point I was making maybe, not even 1,000 a month, barely 500 a month from this guy, just little stuff here and there. So it wasn't about that. It was the excitement of just getting to do it and talk with sellers and meet with people and learn rehabbing, learn the contracts, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're right on. I didn't complain.
Yeah. So it's like learning without the risk, right?
That was it. It was his marketing dollars.
Right.
And that's something I've learned since then. Marketing is really expensive. So I was happy to learn on his dime.
What kind of volume was he doing?
He was probably not a lot of volume. It was maybe 1-2 houses a month, something like that. Probably 3 on a high end. But I only worked with him for not even a year. And also the thing with him, he was really focused on like inner city. I was in York, Pennsylvania at the time, which I've since moved back there. So long story, but he was in the city houses. So really low end stuff. I mean, these are ones that some of them you can't even give away, literally to that level, on some of these row home type things that are in rough shape. On a high end, they would go for 20, 30 grand. Like a lot of areas, they since probably doubled in that price, but that was back, in like 12, 13, those years. So it was still pretty darn low, everything. But the reason I only worked with them for about a year was my wife wanted an opportunity to continue her education. She wanted to pursue a fellowship. So we toured around the country, a couple of different places, and she found one in Pueblo, Colorado, which is where we ended up moving to, which is just south of Colorado Springs, about 30 miles south of that, in case anybody doesn't know. So we moved out there. I got another computer job, started doing that. But the job that I moved into was actually, I could do some remote consulting. And so it really freed up my time a lot. So I dove right back into real estate full time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I started doing some flipping. I did a couple that first year, and they all made money. It was fun. But what I learned was, boy, finding those deals is the toughest part. That was really a challenge, finding them. So then you find them, then you got to buy them, then you got to get the money, to do the whole thing. You got to manage the rehab, and you got to sell them. There was so many pieces, and being a one-man show, I have a little bit of an ADD issue, and so I don't work well bouncing all over the place, and I just couldn't focus. So I said, I'm going to focus on one thing. And your Lead Propeller website, I learned quite a bit from you, because I would go in, read your stories of, what you've been doing to market and how you were getting properties. And I just copied a lot of that and started just really focusing on wholesaling at that point. And that was all I did. So from there, it was not a bad start. I mean, I did okay my first year. Probably did. I should probably have looked at these numbers ahead of time, but maybe a dozen deals
Yeah, nice.
that first year. Most of them pretty small. Got into some buying some sub twos and selling them on a lease option, which again, you're just learning. You're just learning. So where it got fun was the next year. The next year, I had kind of a rough start to the year. Again, I was still a one-man show, and right around June, I got laid off from my computer job. So my remote consulting job went away. So my wife and I, we had long discussion at that point, because it was, I was doing okay in real estate. I had, 1 month would be great, and the next I wouldn't do anything for 2 months. It was really, really sparse. So not what I'd call a business at that point. She fortunately had finished her fellowship, was making enough money we could kind of live off of, just without me anymore. And so that allowed me then the opportunity. And I want to caveat all this. None of this is possible, as without my wife, Lauren. There's no way I could have even had a shot at this, support-wise and financial-wise.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's such a big deal. If the wife or the spouse is not on board, that's a tough road. But yeah, so it's awesome that she's been super supportive and did that. I definitely wouldn't be here, where I am without Melissa. This whole time.
Yeah, definitely. And you know that probably even more so just because you're so involved in the business together. My wife, she does her own thing and I do mine, and we both support each other, but very separate. So for you being in the same business, I'd like to think we wouldn't have killed each other by this point, but
Oh, she still wants to kill me from time to time, but
yeah, I bet that'd be tough to work together. I know we could do it, but I'm sure it has its challenges. So at that point, I had joined Seven Figure Flipping right about that time. So not only do I lose my job, but I just paid a very large check to go sign up for a mastermind that I had really very little knowledge about. I'd been listening to Justin for maybe a year at that point, and I thought, man, that would be awesome. I'd love to be in that group. And that was when he was accepting scrubs like I was at that point to get in. And it really did. It changed things a lot. I went through about 4 months in, I went to my second mastermind, and the question was like, why haven't you hired anybody yet? I was still doing absolutely everything. So I thought, lead manager, that'd be a great person to hire. I love acquisitions. I can do the rest. Let me hire a lead manager. Well, long story short, within 30 days, I'd hired a lead manager, an acquisition manager, and a disposition manager all on the same day.
All within 30 days, you said?
Yeah, well, I started the hiring process. Yeah. I was interviewing all these great people, and they really are. It's amazing. If you haven't hired before, the caliber of people you get applying for some of these jobs, even not high-paying jobs, is really impressive. I mean, we had a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD between the three candidates, and not that degrees, indicate your level of intelligence or how much you're worth. I know people with high school diplomas who are crushing it out there, but just these people who've had careers, they've really done things, and so I was just impressed. I loved them all, and that was out of like 100 applicants. So I hired them on, and I started down the journey. Now, instead of just being a flipper or a wholesaler, of like running a business, managing people. And I'd managed people in the past. I managed, teams of over 50 when I was doing computer stuff. So I had that part down a little bit. It's nothing like running your own business. I basically knew nothing. And so
So what do you think kept you from hiring people for so long?
you always feel like, I think with everything that we're always kind of doing, we feel like we're not there yet. And I'm one to pull the trigger. I don't feel like I'm slow to pull the trigger. I mean, just last week I got presented with a new marketing idea, and I don't want to throw numbers around, but the next day I dropped 10 grand on a new marketing idea I hadn't heard of the day before. I'm like, let's give it a shot. It sounds cool. So I'm not too reserved on, trying new things, but you almost feel like maybe you're not quite worthy yet. You don't have the business sustainability yet. Also, a big thing is you're not responsible for people. You're responsible for their income. And so that was another thing that allowed me to transition that a little bit easier. Was I had that conversation with them. I said, hey, look, things are going good. Here's my record, here's what we're doing. But at the same time, I don't have, business where I could say, hey, a year from now, we're still going to be doing it. It's not enough. It has to grow in order to support your salary. So that was a big responsibility taking that on. And you got to let people know that you're, the situation you're in, be open and fair with them. And if they're willing to accept that and take that risk with you, then you can move forward. So that was probably part of it, and just intimidating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we had sort of the same thing. The business is going pretty well, but it's always in the back of your head, like, we could have a long spell of nothing, and we're responsible for people at that point. Is kind of a fear that kept us for a long time, just saying, hey, let's just keep it simple. There were excuses and different things that we had and reasons that we wanted to believe to not have to take on that responsibility. But man, I mean, how have things changed for you since getting help?
It's been significant changes. So, good and bad. It's not like all of a sudden I hired people and boom, things took off from there and it was amazing. I'm really glad I did it. I'm jumping off that cliff. You're almost always better off just because you're gonna learn something. I have almost failed though. I've had two periods through my business throughout the years where I did lose kind of everything back in the last crash, and I've had times since then where I didn't fail, but I was really down to where, man, I didn't have a lot of runway left, as you said, to support things. So there were some challenges. They were good people, but in the end, I ended up actually letting every one of those first three people go. And I hear that's not unusual. I mean, I know people that have hired 10 people before they found the right one for a position. So I'm the end of the story is I have an amazing team now, but it took going through working with them. We had some successes, so I can't say it was that they didn't do okay. But when you have a person where there's a huge difference between having someone who's good at their job and having someone who is just so much better than you at what they do. It's an amazing feeling. Yeah. And I have that now. Right now I have a new lead manager, a new acquisition manager, and I say new, I've had these people for months or longer, and a new transaction coordinator. I'm still doing the dispositions actually at this point. I kind of held onto that one to keep myself in, and we're actually bringing another acquisition manager on here this month. I'm doing a lot of new marketing through you and through other channels to make that happen and get the leads up. But I went through with that initial team. We did okay, but then just it wasn't working. We were doing okay. We had good months. I ended up hiring a business coach. He went through everything with me. And he said, hey, look, he's like, you got to take it back over. And I did. And that was last October. I took everything back over. I went from basically on the path to failure to just really, I crushed it for about 6 months.
Well, what do you mean by taking it all back over? Like you
let
got rid of everybody?
Go. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and I just took over all the positions again. Really cut back on my marketing. I had to kind of resize the whole business and take everything back over. And that was okay. And it worked great. And that was, it's easy when you're running everything, because now, all the pieces, and, every lead works to its maximum if you can handle the volume. I'll caveat it with that. But I'd scaled my volume back and was making a lot more money on a lot less marketing dollars. I found out in December that we were moving back to Pennsylvania from Colorado. So Colorado Springs is where my business is. And so I had to make that decision. It only took about 5 minutes, but I'm going to say, man, am I going to shut my business down? Or am I going to rehire again and do it all over and take that risk to do the hires. And so I did that. So back in January, I started hiring again, brought on new people, and it's been amazing. I used a lot of lessons I learned from the 7-figure flipping program to bring those people on. Really extensive interview process and filtering, and they just all blow me away. I'm so excited. Like every time I talk to them on the phone, I go out to Colorado 3-4 days a month to sit with the team, and it blows me away every time. I can't believe I've been able to bring these kind of people together to turn the business into what it has, and it's so much fun now. It's making money, and I love it. We're always improving. It's all thanks to them.
That's awesome. So do you think some of the learning experience of hiring people and then having to let them go and then taking the business back over, do you think you learned more about who you needed for the different positions and what they should be doing after having had somebody work in that position? Because then you kind of see, okay, they're not very good at this, but they need to be. So next time I'm going to hire for this position, I know I need this type of person or somebody that's great at this. They have a bunch of different responsibilities, but man, their core thing is this thing. And if they're not good at that, or they don't love that, I mean, we've been through that here over and over. And when you get that you finally get the right one, it's just like, wow, this is what we've been missing all this time. And
I wish I could say there was a magic answer to that question, because I hear what you're saying. You hired once, you failed. I've hired this, the second time, but I went through 2 acquisition managers to get the one I have. I wish I had an exact answer to that. Really, all I can say is you know it when you're interviewing them. So there's kind of 2 phases to it. You have to do one, give them enough hoops to jump through to even get to you, because you're gonna put your application out. You're gonna get 100 people applying for a job. You'll pull your hair out trying to go through all that. So I actually use something called Wise Hire to do the initial screening, bringing people on. Really helped with organizing it all and being able to communicate with them. You can email back and forth. Then I sent them all through another test called it was the OMG test from acquisition managers. Not the same test for my lead manager or transaction, but it's just that next layer. Have them schedule their own meeting. I use something called Calendly. Can they schedule a meeting for me? And then ask for very specific things in it. And it's none of these are my ideas. They're all things that other people know. So that at least gets you somebody who's willing to jump through a few hoops. They know you can handle technology. So now you can focus on the real the cream of the crop, at least the ones that have a chance of doing well with you. And then as you're sitting through your interviews, I would say just keep going until you sit with one that really does blow you away. When you sit down with them, I knew my transaction manager right now. She's actually, I was hiring for transaction manager. She's almost more my operations manager now. I knew within 5 minutes of that interview, the only question I was asking at the end was, what's it going to take to get you?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did, and I gave her exactly what she wanted, and it's been fantastic. But I've been through enough interviews, probably dozens now, where they're pretty good, or they answered that question well, and I think they may be able to do good with that. No, just
it should be yes, not maybe, or well. Yeah, if it's well or maybe, you should keep looking, right? There's a couple of points I want to get back to, because there was a whole lot of stuff, great stuff in there that you've shared, and I want to get into some of that a little bit deeper. First, the fact, we've got a lot of similarities that I didn't know about, like, our history, like computers, and then 2003, is when you got your start. You had a live-in flip. I did the same exact thing, 2003, live-in flip. Found out that I should not be doing the work on the houses very quickly. And then going through, some changes during the market correction, the crash in 2008. We stayed in the business, but we had to completely change our whole strategy and kind of take it easy a little bit while we were doing that. But so a lot of similar steps between us throughout all that. So that was pretty cool to hear. The next thing was the business coach. And, you don't hear a lot of investors talking about hiring a business coach. And, Melissa and I did at the beginning of this year, I think it was like right around the beginning of 2018. And man, was that eye-opening. Just somebody looking from the outside in, and you just being able to share everything and having them tell you, okay, here's your problem, right? Like, here's the first thing you need to get in order. And that's like, how did you go about finding a coach? And then what did you think about the whole coaching? Are you still doing it?
I wouldn't be here today without him, is the only way to answer that question. You know, I owe a lot to the seven-figure flipping program, the people I've met through there for specifically real estate type questions. You know, there's no better resource in my mind for the things I'm looking for. What I needed was something that wasn't so focused on real estate, something that was focused more on the business aspect of it, how to manage people, how to, you know, manage your, not so much the finance part, but really it gets into that. What are your core motivators? Just big picture. What are you trying to accomplish in your life? What do you want your business to provide for you in other areas? And actually, I'm running two businesses now. Like you, we were running multiple businesses, actually finally like three. How do they all fit together in the pieces? And so I met him. I find I rarely go to events now that you don't have to pay at least something to go to. And so this was a $40 event that was the business journal in Colorado Springs puts on, and that gets you in the door. And you know, 9 out of 10 people aren't willing to pay something like that. So just right there, the caliber was a little bit. I met him. He was a business coach. Just had a great casual conversation, and he did a you know, kind of a free initial coaching session with me the next week. And it was right after that I laid everybody off and completely changed. I went from basically I was failing. I was spending $20,000 a month on marketing, and I hadn't done a deal in 10 weeks, and it was all going going downhill. Yeah, it was a real bad stretch. I thought, man, what's this going to look like? And I was going into the fall. I cut that back to $8,000 marketing right away. Again, this was in 1 hour with him. I cut it all back, laid everybody off, took it back over, and immediately turned everything around. And that was the initial, but he's been doing it ever since. So we meet every 2 weeks, either in person or on the phone. I actually have my operations manager meet with him once a month, just because, you know, he gets my perspective, but maybe I'm delusional in some things, and so that lets him see the other side of somebody else who's really intelligent, has a lot of experience that can explain what's truly going on in the business, and that's been really helpful. And then I had him come in and do a team session with us last month, and so that was awesome. Amazing. Yeah, we had 3.5 hours sitting around the table. It felt like it took 30 minutes, and just it totally took us and built the team together. It builds that unity, and kind of set us on a great trajectory. So yeah, I use something called the Alternative Board. It's Tab. My coach Steve, he's been amazing. That's how I found him. I'm not vouching for the entire program. I only know Steve through it, but he's just been awesome, and I will use him as long as he's around.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. The insights and people that have been around helping businesses to fix the problems, right, and see the problems. Like sometimes we ignore things. We ignore the frog, right? We avoid eating the frog, and we keep it back here. We know it's there, but we're focused on these other smaller problems because we don't want to deal with that bigger problem. And to have somebody kick you a little bit and say, hey, you got to eat that thing. And if you do, you don't need to do all this other crap anymore.
And forced me to have more difficult conversations that probably would have waited way too long had I not had them. So that more than anything.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's good to hear you bring that up. I don't know that I've had a lot of people on the show bring that up. If any, maybe it's been one person. So, that's really cool. And I think, people listening out there, if that's something new for you, definitely look into, especially because you can get that. Usually they'll do that first appointment for free, right? Just to give you, just to get an idea of where you're coming from. And I think if they can give you something, an epiphany or some kind of aha moment during that first one, you've got somebody pretty good. If they don't, if you walk away saying, oh, that was cool, but without some sort of advice on something to do that you're avoiding, you probably should interview another coach.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He provided more than his value right off the bat. And he's a very high level. I have no idea what across the board. I've never talked with another coach, so I don't know if it's ever been. I mean, he's several $100s an hour just to sit down and talk with him, and it's worth every penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you find somebody that's like $50 a month or $50 an appointment, yeah, you probably want to find somebody else. But yeah, it's usually pretty pricey for the good people. But like you said, it's the value, right? It's what you're getting in return. It might seem like a lot of money, but if the value, just like the mastermind groups, seems like a ton of money, but man, I mean, what kind of value does that bring to your company and your life? But the next thing that you had brought up that I wanted to make sure we touched on a little bit more was the WISE hire process. for hiring. And some people have never heard of Wise Hire. How do you use Wise Hire? Like, what are the steps? Do you have them take the disc profile as a part of their, are you only contacting people that did take it, or do you contact people that don't and ask them to take it?
No, I definitely only contact the ones that do, and not so much because, I think the disc is the end all be all. What it is, it's a step they have to jump through. And if they don't fill out that, what are they going to do when I have a project that I need done? And I'm like, hey, can you do this thing? Everybody I have right now, they don't do what I ask them to do. They do that's done in 5 minutes. Then they're going on and they're doing their own projects. And they're coming up with their own ideas. And they're getting those things done. And so the fact that they had to do those things initially, even just to get to talk to me, was a big step. So, but Wise Hire in general, it's a real estate hiring platform. I don't know how any of the back end works. I just know you put out, a list of, I don't know, they have a list of jobs you can select from. You put on your what you're offering, what the job description is, and then they kind of take it from there. They post it to all these places. You pay an extra $100, puts it on Indeed and everywhere else. And then you just get to sift through all the applications and they rank them for you and you can chat with them. And then from there, what I do is I'd set up, if they qualified enough and we talked, I'd send them to the OMG test, which again, I'm not saying that's the end all be all. There's probably many other things out there that work really well, but it was just something else they had to do. It takes them 45 minutes to an hour. If they did they didn't have to like get a recommended, because very few get recommended, but they at least had to be somewhere in that range of close. And if they were, in fact, my acquisition manager right now, he was not recommended. He was that next stage down. I don't remember what it's called. And I still went and interviewed him just because we got to talking and I really liked him. I thought, a test doesn't know everything. And he went through and jumped through all those hoops. And he did. And then that worked great. I interviewed him. I had my operations manager interview him. And actually, she made the final decisions and I couldn't be more happy.
Awesome. Yeah. The disc and some of those tests, I think studying those has been super helpful. And with Wise Hire, I guess the process is when you choose the job description or the type of job it is, they assign different values to different parts of the disc. For the DISC, which is a person that is personality test, right? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's like a personality test, but
I just trust it.
But it assigns different weights, so it kind of tells you like if it matches up really good. So if you want somebody that's really a job that's task oriented, and somebody with a high C and maybe like a lower D is going to be good for that, right? And then a salesperson is usually a higher D, lower C type of thing. So there's these personality profiles that fit for these different positions. And it's actually really interesting to do that and then interview the people. So if you find somebody with a high D and you interview them, kind of seeing how they are different from that high C that you interviewed the time before, it's kind of amazing, right? To just like see the personality differences and go, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. And there's places for everybody, within your company. Finding those right seats is really important. I will say one thing that I've learned this year that's even more important. You've always heard, culture is important in a company. I've never really had to face a decision that was it turned out being black and white in the end, and it was a difficult conversation, and I'm glad it did. But I had, my second acquisition manager hired, good guy. He had serious DNA, sales DNA, as they call it, got contracts, made money. But in the end, and he'll do well somewhere else. But in the end, though, it did come down to he wasn't a culture fit for our company, and that was a tough decision. I moved away. I had a guy who was making me money, and I still had to let him go just because I knew what I was looking for in my company. I knew what direction I wanted to take it, and I knew the impact he was having on my other employees and their happiness. And in hindsight, it should have been an easy decision. And
yeah.
It's always tough beforehand. But once I did it, I felt better, and I wish him the best. I'm sure he'll do well somewhere else. But
Well, that must not have been an easy decision. I mean, you're like, he's bringing the deals.
Mm-hmm.
He's bringing the deals that are paying for everything, and it's that's a tough thing to say. Hey, let's find somebody else. Like,
yeah, and I did. I found somebody else, and honestly, I tried everything I could with him. I mean, we did many hours of coaching weekly. I mean, a lot of consultations, a lot of, hey, this is how we can improve, this is how we work together. It just wasn't meshing. So yeah, a week after I had my new one on, the writing was on the wall. You kind of saw it coming, and we had that conversation and left on good terms, and it's all good. But yeah, just make sure you're getting, when you're hiring, it's like, do you want to be, not only, are they impressing you, but when things go wrong, and they will, is this someone you want to, kind of be in trouble with? So someone, if something's going wrong, you want them on your side fighting with you, and you're going to have problems where you're fighting against each other, not fighting, but just disagreements. And, how do you think they'll handle that? So yeah, getting that culture right is huge.
Yeah, that's big. And you want the disagreements. Like, you want people to have different opinions, and you want to be able to firmly believe in your opinion and have them believe in their opinion, but be able to talk and understand the other person's point of view. Things have changed dramatically around here on the software side. Once we focused on that and having the right people here, that could happen. And it's amazing what it opens up for you, instead of just like a meeting ending where you feel like, well, that was a waste of time. I could have just sent out an email, because nobody really had any input, to one where everybody's saying, oh man, yeah, you should change this to do this, and have reasons for it, and like really argue about it. And then at the end, still be able to walk away laughing. You know what I mean? So it's really incredible. But
you got good people.
Have you ever, what's that?
I don't want to cut you off, but I will say you have amazing people on your team. Being a customer for 4 years, the service and just the whole interactions of everybody you work with, I can totally see how that'd be a lot of fun to work in your office and get some good ideas.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna let them know that they like to hear the from the customers like that. We've got a stuff of testimonials from emails. Just people send me emails out of the blue, thanking us for, and just saying how good the support team is, which is great. I love hearing that. But have you tried a group interview when hiring somebody?
I have not. I know that was a big push last year in the 7-figure program, and I did not. So I have.
So we had, our business coach that we were using. He had recommended it to me. He's like, you're super busy. You're doing all this stuff. You got to do the group interview. It's going to save you a ton of time. So we get a lot of resumes. We do phone interviews, and then we pick 3 or 5 people. It's got to be odd number for some reason. So like 3 or 5 people from the phone interviews that we wouldn't mind hiring any one of them. Have them all come in at the same time and interview. And at first I thought, I was like, oh, that's, they might not like that. It's pretty competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But, you got to understand, like when someone goes to an interview, right, they know there's going to be other people interviewing that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the nice thing about, actually, I've actually enjoyed, the first one was kind of weird, but I've really enjoyed, because it's not a huge group. It's not like 15 people, which is what I thought about whenever that was discussed with John Martinez and, doing the group interview stuff. In my mind, it was like a room full of people, right? But when we did it, it was like 3 or 5 people interviewing. And the nice thing is, while somebody's answering, somebody else can be thinking about what their answer is going to be, and they don't want to say the same thing the other person said. And it's kind of interesting to see. And then if you've got a real jerk, that'll come out in the interview, because they'll be obnoxious while the other people are speaking. And we've had that. And I was like, did you see how he was acting while other people were talking? Yeah, what a jerk. Whereas we might not have seen that if he came in on his own, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds like, if they're cutting people off and looking at their phone and all that, that'll come out.
Or the ones that, like, somebody says something good and they're, oh yeah, me too. And they just have to like get the thing in, because they knew they got the upper hand. So they had to try to, I don't know, it was weird. But,
that's a cool dynamic. I've never experienced that. I wish you'd have recorded it. I'd love to watch that.
Yeah. Well, afterwards, like some people on our team that were in the interview process were like, if you hire that guy, I'm out of here.
That's good too. Like, again, having, my operations manager help me with hiring, having other people on your team give their input. That's a huge advantage to, because they're the ones that have to work with them a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Melissa does that on the flipping side too, is multiple people. I think there was one time where, I called her and I was like, where are you at? We were supposed to do this thing or something. And she's out to lunch, with the person that they're interviewing. And I was like, didn't you have lunch with them last week or 2 days ago? It's like, yeah, now it's the team. So it's like 5 interviews or something before this person came on. So that was pretty interesting, but I thought it was maybe overkill, but.
5's a lot. I guess, I have 5 stages, not 5 interviews. It's really only 2 interviews.
Well, I'm exaggerating. I don't think it was actually 5. I don't know. But So awesome. Yeah, we've covered a lot of great stuff in the thing, but I know that you had said that you're working right now on branding is like your kind of push and your focus. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I would. It's when you're first starting out, I almost, for most people, I'd say don't worry about this. In the beginning, just getting your postcard in front of somebody or getting your website up where they find you is probably the most important thing, because that they're going to call you at the right time. But what I've been working on and what I really want to become for our city is a brand that people know, not just as the people buying houses and flipping and that type of stuff, but the people who really are there to kind of be that one solution for people who are buying houses, like a brand that they recognize. And so all of our marketing, we're really trying to get consistent with that, where everything kind of looks the same. All the touch points that they have with us go out, trying to find out things that would be some more visibility. So just kind of one off the wall idea we had, and we've got it all printed out. What we should be rolling out here in a week or two is a lot of car, stickers on the back, working with people to get those out and get our number, just to, again, get that visibility. Also putting out some more programs, so things that will really help people. So in Colorado Springs, the biggest community there is the military. So, they have very unique housing needs, a lot of short timeline type stuff, a lot of short ownership of homes. And really, I don't think they get the education they need from the service on when they should and shouldn't be buying a house, which honestly, in my opinion, if you're going to live there for 3 or less years, you should not be buying a house. But usually we're coming in on the tail end of that, unfortunately. But all the ways that we can help them with that. So being an education source for them, which again is associated with our brand, just to become someone that's known who doesn't, you're not just out there buying houses, but really helping people. And everyone on my team, we're either veterans or we've have immediate family members who are veterans. So it's kind of been a big focus of our branding as well. So I can't speak to the end of how successful this is yet. It's more, two of the people that have come on my team have really had great success with this in the past with one was a retail brokerage, actually 2 different retail brokerages. Another was in a different industry, but that branding, they just saw some amazing results from it, and they have a lot of experience with that. So we're taking that knowledge, of these amazing people, and we're putting it together to do that with Sell My House to Smith with our business, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm pretty excited. And honestly, the extra cost isn't a ton for branding. You just get consistent with it, make sure it's done right, and it's just a lot of time putting together the education pieces and the outreach. Maybe put on some classes, but it's not like it's huge numbers of more postcards or anything. You're just doing them in a way that people recognize you.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's in this crowded market, most of us are in these markets. There's a lot of other investors, right? So having a way to stand out, and I think just branding all of your things so that whenever somebody sees it, they see it there and they see it here and they see it here and they see it there. And then if they see someone else's, but they only see it one time, you're going to look like the more professional company. It's going to be able to help them. And then adding the educational piece. And that's what Melissa's been working on too in our business, is doing some of the more marketing that's actually giving information instead of just telling people who we are and what we do. Exactly. And yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes for you, and let you know how it goes for us too, as we focus on, what are the best properties we've been buying, what are the situations that the people are facing, and let's focus more on marketing directly to that situation kind of thing. Have you ever used Story Brand? Have you read that book?
I have not read that book.
Yeah, Story Brand. Check it out. It's Donald Miller, I think is his name. Story Brand. It's a great book. It walks you through this framework for coming up with a story behind your brand. And it's all about how marketing these days, unless you're telling a story, it's not, it's going to confuse people. It's all about simplifying your message so that people aren't confused about who you are and what you do and actually care about what you're saying. So it's pretty cool. I liked it.
I love it. No, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, Melissa's been going through that too. So it is a really simple read too. And I like the way it's a framework. It's not real dry and boring. It's actually good.
If you made a book on simplifying and you made it real complicated, that wouldn't be.
Yeah, he lost me in a couple places, but yeah.
I love it.
Well, awesome. What are your goals for the business moving forward? I mean, are you going to stick with wholesaling, or are you making any transitions or anything?
Really, that's a tough question to answer. And I only say that because we've just gone through the exercise, what you're talking about, what is our goals, where are we trying to head, where we're trying to grow to. And we have a lot of great ideas, like every business. I don't think we've really narrowed down exactly what that looks like. We know we're going to be bringing on another acquisition manager here and really solidifying ourselves in our current market. We may expand somewhat into wholesaling. Right now, all we do is wholesaling. I buy a random property here and there, but very rarely. So nothing worth mentioning, but probably getting into the wholesaling part a little bit more again. And it's not because I don't want to do flipping, not that I didn't enjoy flipping, but trying not to spread into too many directions. The next question becomes of not franchising out, but just opening other branches in other areas. In fact, I have an opportunity right now to open a branch in another city with a local investor who is really successful in the commercial realm, but doesn't do much with residential. And we've been working on the commercial side. And so it's like, oh, I love it. Let's do it. Let's open the branch. I know these people. And it's a tough question. It's like, well, you have that opportunity, but I also have all these balls I'm already juggling. And so just because something's a good idea, it may not be a great idea. So just back to hiring people. Are they, are they good, or are they a hell yeah? And so, there's a lot of good ideas out there, a lot of good opportunities, but it's got to be something you can really get excited about and is really worth taking that effort. So I know it's a long way of saying I don't really have a solid plan for the business. We have our numbers we're trying to hit, and
No, but it's good. I think the way you answer that though is smart, and not in how you answered it, but what you said, was something of tremendous value, and that we all kind of get the shiny object syndrome, and something seems like a great idea, and just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And there's a lot of value in focusing and not getting spread thin, because you're what is it, holding spinning plates or whatever. You're setting them going, and a lot of times when you're looking at doing another one, you're not really thinking about the fact that you're still going to have to spin this one over here. And it can seem fun at first, but soon you realize that, oh my gosh, I've got all these responsibilities, and I'm doing way too much, and I'm not having as much fun as I thought I would. And like getting back focused, because that's people that do really well, I think, are just super focused.
That's it. That's it. It's not just how much fun you're having, but that's totally it too. But how effective are you? And you may be able to make 10 times as much or be 10 times productive if you just do the one thing versus a bunch of good ideas.
Right. And that's that thing too in the group that's been talked about a lot lately too, right? Is the, having the business support your lifestyle instead of your lifestyle supporting your business or businesses, and something to keep in mind, right? All the time.
Yeah. Too many businesses sometimes.
But it's like my dad's like, my business is my lifestyle. I don't know if he'd agree with that, but he just loves it so much. You say you're working too hard. No, he just loves what he's doing, and it's cool to see. So to him, from the outside, it might look like a lot of work, but on the inside, it's like, we love what we're doing, right?
Definitely, we definitely are blessed in that way. It is work. I don't get up every day and think, oh no, it's fun. I worked way too many hours this week, and just again, I was having so much fun. I was so excited about all the new ideas. I wanted to dive right in. It made it fun. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, Darren. This has been a great episode, and getting to know your story a little bit better, and getting to know you a little bit better. If anybody out there listening wants to reach you, is there any way that they can, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. Before I do that, I do want to say I'm super excited actually to continue the conversation here with getting started on Flip Pilot here. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks or a month or two. We've been with Podio for so long, so we're been waiting. We love all your other products that you're doing for us, so can't wait to get Flip Pilot going. My team, we sat through about an hour demo with you last week, and they were blown away and did all sorts of things that they knew from other industries that they said were just incredibly awesome. And it was a lot of it was new to me because I haven't even had the opportunity to have those features and those options. But they really saw the value. So I'm very excited in that, and I did as well. As far as reaching out to me, my business is Sell My House to Smith out of Colorado Springs. So my email is Darren, Darren, @sellmyhousetosmith.com. You can reach me there. And I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or if I can help you in any way.
Awesome. And we'll put the link to the website in the show notes page. Give you a little bit of SEO also there from the website to yours, help boost you even more. But yeah, thanks for the that statement about Flip Pilot and what you thought about it, and your team, and what they had thought about it. I know you had made a comment, or they had said something, about just absolutely loving it, and it's great to hear, when we're working on this thing and we think it's great, but it's like, well, how are other people going to receive it? And to get that feedback from you guys was awesome. So thank you. And for anybody,
they were adamant about going with that. So no, you impressed the heck out of them. And these are not easy people to impress. Trust me, we are blunt. We're critical. so no, it's awesome. We're looking forward to it.
Great. That means a lot. And then anybody listening, if you're not already on the early bird email list to get notifications about the features, we're releasing videos about features for what Flip Pilot does, the power of it as a system that helps you keep a 30,000 foot view of your flipping business. Go to flippilot.com and you can register there to get notifications about our launch, which we're doing. We're going to do a beta launch, limited beta launch in this month in September. So go ahead and register there if you haven't yet. And thanks again, Darren, for being on the podcast. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks again, Danny. I appreciate everything. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem. Have a good one. I'll talk soon.